Luminkey is a sub-brand of CreateKeeps, who after two successful releases in the 75 and the 80, the Luminkey65 comes in adopting the same design language as the 80, while including some much appreciated updates and some new paint jobs. Rather than just looking at the specs of the board itself, today I want to explore how far the entry-level enthusiast market has come these past few years, what changes the Luminkey65 has adopted compared to its 80% counterpart, and why these changes improve what was already a pretty solid custom keyboard for its price point. Now, the Luminkey65 takes a lot of pointers from its predecessor in style, but now utilises baskets as opposed to the previously used silicone socks. Some fun new colour keycaps even come with their own novelties and macOS keys, as well as the introduction of a red anodised aluminium chassis. Very much appreciated by me, I've got to say. The price sits nice and affordable for both the bare bones and built versions, but it's worth keeping in mind for other add-ons like plates and badges, which we'll talk about a bit later. You do have to pay a bit extra. In terms of everything else spec-wise, nothing to really stand out. Not because it isn't fantastic, but at this point, the kit comes with everything you'd expect to see from the great budget customs we've seen in the space so far. The board sports the same sort of copper weight that was offered in the 80, continuing the, in my opinion, sleek and classic design language presented, but replacing the triangle badge above the arrow cluster with a copper badge on the front, which can be switched out for either of these titanium options as add-ons. The board also sports a very similar side profile to the 80, which I appreciated then and still really like now. I also like that the LED indicator has been incorporated into the front badge. Ever since I first got my hands on the OwlLab Spring, I've always liked a little bit of RGB sprinkled in, and the light use of it, how it's used here, is always going to be appreciated by me. I thought the 80 was fantastic in its pre-built configuration, so let's see how this lines up straight out the box. Just like the 80, this thing is truly fantastic straight out the box. It does come with plate mount stabs, which is an interesting choice in my opinion, but this hasn't changed how good the stabs are from the word go. If you didn't know, the pre-built versions are assembled in-house by a member of the Luminkey's team. You get this nice card in the box to show who built it and when, which I think is a great touch to make it a little bit more personal. Towards the end of last year, I had a chance myself to have a look at the Luminkey 80, and the few gripes I had with the board were the lack of plate and weight options, as well as the overall subtlety of the branding. The Luminkey65 may carry on this very sleek minimalist look, but the addition of other plate options as add-ons is great to see. The plates also mean that you have a number of layout options to choose from split backspace to standard or Sangan bottom rows. One thing I liked in the previous offering from CreateKeeps was the cohesion that the 80 had in the form of triangles, with badges above the arrow cluster as well as in the corners of the backplate. I like that the 65 carries this on, but has the shape engraved into the weight, mirroring the badge that appears on the front of the keyboard. You also see the slight change in the side profile itself. It's now a little less angled than the 80 and the curves are really sleek. A small yet effective change that mirrors the rest of the changes made to the overall design. The badge options offered with this board are also really interesting. In a time where innovation and materials used for boards seems to be weaning a little bit, I love the addition of these titanium badges. It adds a little bit more of a premium touch to the front of the board and is a little more exciting than just a plain aluminium rectangle to look at. I'd love to see some other colourways offered for these, but I do love the colourway that I have in hand. Now, as much as I like the stock build of this board, I think it's time to rebuild in my preferred configuration. I'm going to rebuild it with the aluminium plate just to see if I can get it as close to my preferred sound signature as possible. I ended up going for Gator X on Alu for this build, and one thing to keep in mind is the need for PCB mount stabs for the alternative plates. I assume they went for plate mounted stabs for the pre-built version to keep the price down, but this did come as a surprise and is why I ended up going with a split backspace for this build, so new year, new me, I guess. Now, after using this board for a little while in my preferred configuration, it really does sit in that nice clacky range that I look for in keyboards. And arguably I prefer this to the sound signature of its predecessor. I think it's really interesting looking back at what boards in this price point come with now, or more so who they may seem to be geared towards. You look at the first boards that really kicked off this trend in the QK65, the Zoom 65 and the Jira 65, and they were very much geared towards that foamy sound signature. Flex cut central and PC plates are standard, all that fun post-Jelly Epoch keyboard stuff. More recently, smaller factor budget boards like the Cycle 7, the Neo 65 and the most recent V2 of the QK65 seem to be very flexible in what sound signature you can achieve. The last two are far more accommodating to the foam sound, as to be expected from their primary consumer base. But I mean, I've rebuilt my Neo65 a number of times now and never felt that it sounded thin or needed foam to sound good. And that's kind of how I felt with this board. Although the pre-built version comes stacked with foam and a PC plate included as standard, after taking all of it out and switching some Gateron switches on an alloy plate, it sounds fantastic and is far more suited towards the more OG custom aesthetic that I think Lumen keyboards are going for. This change in terms of the Lumen key lineup might not be anything more than just trying to remain consistent with the desired aesthetic that they started with the Luminkey80, but it does make me think about the way that the hobby preferences have been changing over time, and how it's changed so quickly from foam back to OG clack of MX Blacks on alu, throughout a time that we were getting new budget boards hitting group buy almost monthly for a while. Realistically, the most recent entry-level enthusiast budget boards, whatever you want to call it, these releases don't really change that much in terms of the features they offer. They all have consistent quality, previously regarded premium mounting styles, and the inclusion of external weights in materials like brass, copper, and stainless steel. The only difference is the price, the aesthetic choices behind the designs, as well as how accessible each release is in its choice of fulfillment. I mean, price-wise, the Neo65 hit $100. Crazy. So, after spending a few weeks with the board, what do I think? After rebuilding it in my preferred configuration, I've got to say I really have been enjoying using this board. The gaskets are so much nicer than the socks that were offered on the Luminkey80, it's got a nice firm typing feel, and overall it looks pretty damn good as well. As you can expect from Luminkey, the board quality is stellar. The functionality with both wired and wireless capabilities is great, and the offered switches are fantastic straight out the box if you opt for the pre-built version. One thing I would keep in mind here for the pre-built version is the quality of the caps aren't that great. Although the legends are consistent, and if this is your first custom and you like the colorways, it's probably a no-brainer, but for someone who's been in the hobby a while, picking up the bare bones version and adding your own switches and keycaps is a much more sensible option. These boards are also pretty much ready to ship from the word go, so no excessive wait times, in-stock raffles, any of that fun high-end keyboard custom stuff. The only gripes I really have with this board are similar to what I have with the Luminkey80, and that's not offering any other materials for the back weight. But that isn't really a negative, and it's more so just something I would have liked to see. This board sounds, looks, and feels great. So if you're in a market for a 65% that pushes a classic design, great sound, and a number of customizability options in plate, layout, and badges, I definitely think the Luminkey65 is one that's worth a look. For those who are interested in any other specific details about the release that I haven't mentioned today, I'll leave a link in the description to everything you need to know. Now, that's all I had on the Luminkey65. Thanks for watching today's video, I really hope you did enjoy it. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did, and let me know your thoughts on the board in the comments down below. Make sure to join my Discord and follow my Instagram for any updates, and I will see you nerds in the next one. Peace.